former the International Photo Festival and the artistic director of Quad in Derby in the UK. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sister, and thanks everybody. It's hard to go last, especially after Dali's awesome. So I just wanted to introduce myself, a little bit about my organisations, and then kind of dive into the programmes that we're doing with Here, There and Everywhere, which focuses on African artists and professionals and cultural initiatives. So this is Quad. This is the Centre for Contemporary Art and Film. I've been working in Derby since 2001. Saw this building, we opened in 2008, so I've been working on the project to create this institution. It's a Centre for Contemporary Art and Film. We've got cinemas, we've got digital artist studios, we've got artist studios for other mediums as well. We've got gallery spaces and education participation spaces. We've got an amazing technical team that specialises in projection mapping and outdoor cinema and kind of interactive commissions. We're involved with several festivals, so there's a film festival, there's a street arts festival. This was an incredible one which crowdsourced imagery from all over the world. It's called As the World Tick. And it was focused on the environment. And really there was images from all over the world. And the performers started, the stage that's hanging up there, started off flat on the ground, it's on a crane. And all the performers were on aerial ropes. And as the stage lifted up, they started to put projection maps on, and they were hanging and performing and doing all sorts of hijinks like this as well. But an interesting way to integrate photography really, and also global perspectives. This is inside our gallery spaces. So we've got one main gallery that's kind of in two sections, and then we use the spaces all throughout the building. And we find pop-up spaces and our factories wherever we can get our hands on throughout Derby. So we're doing things in the city and in other regions of the city and the region and internationally. So we do seasonal programming. So the top right was focused on failure as an artistic strategy and involved many different artists and people talking about failure in our daily lives, also as a process of rebirth and renewal and motivation within the life of an artist. So you kind of see the range of things we do, kind of more formal survey-like shows, but also experimental with installation and VR and AR and AI and all these new terms, as well as digital residencies that we host every year. So this is one of our digital fellows called Khas and Martelli. It's a double act, two people that work together. They map the entire mountain ranges of Svalbard, and you could virtually fly over it with a headset on. There was photography involved as well as projection mapping and photographs projected onto a sphere as well. So, and they were interested in the relationship between virtual reality and your physical body, and how when you go into VR, you can be superhuman, you can fly faster, run faster, zoom around the world, but what they want to do is slow it down, so it kind of limits you to your physical capabilities, so you can drive a Zeppelin only as fast as a Zeppelin would fly. And other things like Venice Biennale, where we worked with John Akenfra, Carlo Hiri, Etang Tal, and several other artists, 9 artists, to produce a crazy golf course in the boatyard in the only little bit of heartland of proper local Venice that still exists. But alongside that, we commissioned Sunscreen, which was where we commissioned 40 artists to submit images that became an experimental curatorial desktop platform. So you could go, you still can go to the site. Majority of them are photographs, some are GIFs, and some are very short moving image pieces. But it's kind of playing with collecting artworks, so you can download these artworks as screensavers. And also GPS kind of hunt them down, like geocaching throughout Venice, and pick them up so you can get additional ones to add, and then you can recurate the desktop and move them around and play with the images. And each image you can click on and it would have the text about the artist and the artwork as well. And I suppose what I'm trying to say is African art and photography and photographers and voices aren't only limited to designated areas of the programme. People are integrated into the programmes that we do, as well as our mass participatory programmes, which is Marinella Sanatorium, where we worked with over 15,000 people to produce 3 films which toured from Berlin, Madrid, Derby, and then on to over 200 major contemporary art venues worldwide. So quite ambitious. Started format in 2004. I initiated it with a colleague of mine, and I'm still working there now somehow. In the funding climate, and also it's a relentless challenge of being an independent, publicly funded, looking for sponsors, looking for spaces constantly. But this is the edition that we had last year. I've got a couple of catalogues to give away, so if someone's paying attention to something that I say in my talk, very obvious, and it's in your notes as well in case you want to look it up quick before someone else gets there. So I started format in 2004, and we're a major biennial. We involve over 300 artists in our programmes when we've got the biennial year. The next one is 2021. Over 70 countries are involved, for precise statistics there, but up to 300,000 people get involved in our programmes. It's only 4 weeks long, but we do projects all year round, which include films out in country parks, public space exhibitions, and so on. But the major programme that we work on at the moment, which is relevant to the specific context, is Here, There and Everywhere. So Here, There and Everywhere is an Arts Council Ambitions for Excellence funded programme. It's a collaboration between New Art Exchange, Delphina Foundation, Eastside Projects, Quad Format, do the same thing almost. Primary in Nottingham, which is an artist-led multi-residency space. MAC, which is Women's Arts Centre in Birmingham, and the Tetley in Leeds. And the aim of it really is to, there's no small thing to say really, is to develop strong transformational art ecologies between Africa and the UK art scene in order to create resilient models for our UK art ecology which activate African diaspora audiences, artists and arts practitioners, and champion the creative case for diversity. But really we want to build a cultural and artistic bridge fostering resilience in the arts both in the UK and Africa. But we do this by engaging artists, curators, arts education providers, society, and wanting to redress the balance in terms of the vastly disproportionate lack of representation within the sector. So alongside that, we've really been inspired by John Akonfra's work and his voice. He's been an advisor for our programmes as well, and one of the first commissions that was part of that, part of this programme was Mimesis, African Soldier. And so you can see the cool partners there, models. We're live into it at the moment, so it started in 2018. We did our initial research trips at Casablanca Biennial and multiple countries throughout the African continent. All of the organisations are engaging with different partners across Africa as well. We're organising currently residencies and exhibitions, we're co-commissioning, we're creating public programmes and publications, so it's all a melting pot of development at the moment. And also Casablanca Biennial is this year, starting on the 24th of September, so several of us will be out there, but also the programme is co-organised with our support as well. So the website is herethereandeverywhere.live in case you want to know more. So some of the artists involved is Hassan Hajjaj and John Akonfra. So John Akonfra, I don't know if you've seen this work, but African Soldier is commissioned by New Art Exchange and War Museum, as well as 1418 now as well. So we created a moving image work that really looks at, I suppose, the millions of African soldiers and labourers and carriers in the First World War. Trawling through archives, he was finding that it was very difficult to find images of of people from African descent in the archives. And also when he found images, there was very little captioning or information about the people, so he's kind of created a very poetic and extremely moving reference to that situation and the lack of recognition and care for the soldiers that fell during that war. And during a talk that's actually available on New Art Exchange YouTube channel, if you would like to watch it, it's an incredible talk. He's talking about this disenchantment and the feeling that arrives after love in relation to the African soldiers that fought for countries like the UK who were not cared for or returned or not recognised or thanked after. He talks about the multi-screen projects as having a voracious nature that demands to be fed. He's not so keen on single screens which seem to have an Aristotelian narcissism about them. He really wants humility to be mirrored in his form, where the medium makes wages, please, and communicates disparate elements, discordant, unruly, hybrid, and forced to sit together for a moment, making temporary contracts of civility, where multiple open narratives and questions are offered with courage and humility. He wants to give people a chance to think, learn, and feel. He feels that artists shouldn't tell people what to think, they should enable them to be tempted into the Bruegel-like forest of things to encounter ideas and thoughts. Another major show that's part of our programme, that's just still on tour at the moment, so it's on at RWA Bristol. It's curated by Eka Ocean, together with New Art Exchange, and explores the work of an emerging generation of photographers from across the African continent. 16 artists from 11 different countries interrogate our ideas of Africanness through highly subjective renderings of life and identity on the continent, along the way revealing Africa to be a psychological space as much as a physical territory, a state of mind as much as a physical location. The exhibition orientates around three main themes: inner landscapes, zones of freedom, hybrid cities, and in the show the modern African city is documented in all its dynamism and contradiction. The fluidity of gender and sexual identity is addressed with compelling portraiture, and the legacy of history from slavery to colonialism and to apartheid becomes the source of resonant new myths and dreamscapes. Africa's state of mind takes place at a time in which popular Western views on the continent still remain limited. Eka Ocean explains, on one hand there is a boosterism of an Africa rising narrative that celebrates the development of an emergent middle class and the growth of a tech sector driven by young aspirational populations, whilst glossing over the inequalities of income and opportunity that still hinders social progress in many countries. On the other hand, there's a reductive stereotype of Africa as a land of would-be migrants and corrupt rulers, a vision given ugly validation by President Trump's description of its nations. By contrast, Africa's state of mind features photography that seeks to address the complexity of what it means and how it feels to live in Africa today. The exhibition also draws inspiration from the work of the Senegalese economist Felwine Sarr, who has called for a fresh consideration of how to understand Africa. Sarr speculates about a new Africa conjured into being by artists, thinkers, and cultural actors, by creative figures whose work is on the internet, whose work is intent on, both probably, articulating contemporary lived experience in Africa as a thing of nuance and imaginative reach. In doing so, articulating Africa as a place where there is, as Sarr puts it, a profound continuity between the real and the possible. So there's a really nice exhibition guide that's still available, and there's information about all of the artists listed here that you can get from the New Art Exchange website, if you wish, with essays by Eka, and then he goes through all of the sub-themes within his work as well. So each of the venues, so New Art Exchange is working on a new exhibition by Hansi Monodugorian, who is putting 6 women artists together, mainly focused on relationships with textiles and multi-art forms. Also New Art Exchange, so Abraham Ahmed, which is the American flag hanging He is an artist from Egypt, and he was recently banned. He was invited to show, and then his work was pulled out from a biennial in Egypt. And due to the nature of his work, which includes the American flag, so he's been showing that elsewhere and talking about his experience. And he's doing some new commissions in Nottingham as well, which is incredible. So Stefan Millie is coming soon to Nottingham to do some performances as well, and show some work. So she is a South African visual artist. She's a public speaker, a performer, a photographer, a fine artist, all these things, interdisciplinary practice, which combines photography, film, sculpture, drawing, to explore issues focused on spirituality, politics, and African knowledge systems. Part of her works focus on the process of myth-making and its influence on constructing history, as well as the absence of the female black body in both narrative and physical spaces of historical commemoration. Her work's held in galleries all across South Africa as well as internationally. She's won a number of awards, but she's also a member of the, I can't pronounce this, IQHIYA collective, which is a network of black women, which she also writes as WOMXN artists, originating from Cape Town, and they're doing some incredibly interesting work. So as I mentioned before, Casablanca Biennial is something to keep an eye on. Christina Ayeni was one of our very good friends and collaborators. She's the artistic director of Casablanca Biennial, which is going through some evolutions. It's a really challenging place to hold a biennial. When we were there in 2018, venues were pulling out at the last minute, funders were pulling out at the last minute, all the program was there. It's kind of the balance, but having organised biennials ourselves, we kind of understand the challenge on the ground of actually delivering something so ambitious. And she is doing her best. It's going to be an amazing programme this year. There's a lot more support in place. But there'll also be opportunities for internships and for work to be shown and seen as well. So keep an eye on her website, but also New Art Exchange, and I'm Here, There and Everywhere portal is the place that we'll be sharing the opportunities as well. A recent exhibition that was part of our programme is by Lady Scully, that's just finished. It was at Eastside Projects in Birmingham. She's a really incredible, bombastic artist, amazing voice in terms of her thoughts, and a performance artist as well. She produces a painting show. The one to flag up is Sheila. She's currently artist in residence at Delphina Foundation, who's one of our programme partners. She is an artist that, as from her own words, I'm reading today, I don't normally do, because I want to share other people's voices as well. So there's a number of contributions from the different artists that I'm talking about today that they've performed. So Sheila is a Nigerian artist. She battles with the politics of behaving oneself in a Catholic colonial body through juxtaposing local rituals, modern technology, traditional myths and movement styles. Her residency will focus primarily on language, body language and spoken word, and she intends to trace her own body for emotions that she feels she's not been allowed or able to express, either because the emotion has been culturally misdiagnosed, erased, or perhaps is non-existent in the English canon, which has become her first language. MAC in Birmingham are focusing on an exhibition by Abubakar Fofana, who's been, it's an amazing program actually. It's working together with allotments in Birmingham, trying to grow indigo plants. And indigo plants don't naturally grow in the UK, so it's quite a risk, this project. But he came over a year ago, so these plants should be coming into fruition this year. So that will be coming soon, the exhibition this year. And Tetley are currently calling out for artists to collaborate with, so with your contacts across Africa, please share this opportunity. It's a Pan-African opportunity to do a residency at the Tetley and primarily working on those projects. So with us at Coding Format, we're collaborating with African Artists Foundation, Vegas Photo in Nigeria, UPPA in Uganda as well. Lagos Photo in Nigeria, we're hosting 3 artist residencies. We're collaborating on an exhibition that will open in April, very soon, and a curatorial exchange where curators will collaborate together to produce an exhibition of artists based in Nigeria and the UK as well. That will happen later this year, as well as focusing on participatory and socially engaged practice public programme. And alongside that, we're doing commissions and a symposium as well. Our symposium will be on the 24th of April at Khas, so do come along. So the dates are on there. It's the 24th of April. So the exhibition that we're curating with Azu Noorderlicht is called The New Vernacular Did I Stutter? It features works exploring the intersection between language, form and imagery. The theme, The New Vernacular, is about works that demonstrate an uncommon fusion of visual cues, semaphores, self-portraiture and linguistics. Contemporary art as a universal language with the power to break down long established boundaries or reinforce them. Featuring artists who understand how disparate elements such as object, sound, image and intention come together in image making, sculpture, drawing, portraiture, fashion and language to present new notions of self whilst exploring the changing visual vocabulary of society today rooted in photography. It also looks at intersectionality, whatever that means. When I was in Lagos, one of the opening events was by Sion Kuti, who's Fela Kuti's son, and he did an amazing, almost hour-long talk in the middle of his gig, and he was talking about and making a plea to young people and compelling them not to aspire to become the oppressor, and to encourage them to understand that in a plural society we should be able to be ourselves beyond race, beyond class, and to become hybrids. So this is what Azu's really looking at within a new wave of African creativity, where young artists, he feels, are learning and demanding an independence. They're making their voices heard and developing their identities and demanding their own identity. It also looks at reparation and repair. And in the past, he's also looking at kind of unraveling gender specificity. He's been researching that there may have been up to more than 6 genders across Africa, and today when young people express themselves as LGBT or Q or dress differently, they may be told that it's un-African to do so, but based on what? What does it mean to have your history owned, ridiculed, examined, othered by colonial cultures? The time is to acknowledge, support and return stolen objects. Leading from this, we've just selected these 3 artists. So these are the artists that are in residence in tandem with the exhibition that Azu is curating. So this artist called Uzomo, and he's a creative technologist. He's a visual artist from Owerri in Nigeria. As a technologist, he seeks to design engaging human-centered design and digital experiences through his photography. And that brings arts and tech into the same conversation. He's an artist that observes and then creates representations of his society and of histories. Visual metaphors that explain his millennial Igbo Nigerian cultural context and the cultural environment he hopes to live in one day. The essence of his practice is indeed identity, particularly as it pertains to himself, his culture, his nationality. His work uses notions of his identity as a point of exit to interrogate who we are, who he is, and who the people are around him, and who he aspires to be. So currently he lives and works in Abuja, Nigeria. So this, a couple of images here are focused on, the baptism of the Igbo man. So this is Sifo. He's born in Soweto. He now lives in the main part of Johannesburg. He studied at the Market Photo Workshop, and he's done various different trainings around the world. So this is a program called House of Realness, and he collaborates with Fatou Ramaseyan, aka Fela Gucci, and he's interested in the role of black men specifically, but also queer communities. He was inspired by his sister sister who came out to his family, and he was talking about how there wasn't a cultural archive, there's no visual history of queer identity in South Africa specifically. So he wanted to create a narrative around that by making work which documented and played with and created images around a kind of a gay and queer identity and culture through the people that he knows and people that he found and engages with. The other artist is Rulani Antonivila. He works in South Africa, and he's a multidisciplinary artist, charting the course between fashion and photography. His narratives are also deeply entrenched in identity, family, connection, belief, LGBT kind of concerns as well there. As his proposal is to work with African diaspora young people across the East Midlands region, so he'll be doing video interviews and portraits as well. And his work will also be in exhibition together with SIFO and Mugoma as well. So we all open on the 24th of April. New Art Exchange is organising a big summit at the end in autumn 2020, so they'll have the information on the website soon. We've got a portfolio review coming up, which is opportunities for people to have one-to-ones with artists and directors from all over the world, including cultural leaders from West Africa